Imagine for a moment that nothing and nobody could ever hurt you again. Picture yourself standing firm, unwavering, no matter what life throws your way, no matter how others treat you or what challenges arise. What if I told you that this is not just a dream, but a reality you can create for yourself? Self-awareness is often considered the first and most crucial step in any form of personal growth. It is the lens through which we understand ourselves and, more importantly, the way we perceive and react to the world around us. To be truly self-aware is to be in tune with our internal landscape, the thoughts, emotions, and motivations that drive our behaviors. This awareness is not just about knowing what we do, but understanding why we do it. The depth of our awareness determines the extent to which we are capable of responding to life's challenges with emotional balance, resilience, and wisdom. At the core of self-awareness is the ability to identify the parts of ourselves that we often hide, ignore, or avoid. These are the aspects of our psyche that we may feel uncomfortable with, or that may have been shaped by past experiences. These parts can include deep-seated fears, old wounds, insecurities, and even self-sabotaging tendencies that we might not be consciously aware of. Often, these aspects remain in the background of our minds, influencing our reactions without us fully realizing it. A person might, for example, become defensive in a conversation not because of what is being said, but because of an unresolved fear of rejection or abandonment that has been carried from past experiences. In this way, the external world can trigger deeply rooted emotional responses that are disproportionate to the current situation. Understanding the hidden motivations behind our emotions is a profound act of self-awareness. It requires introspection and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It means acknowledging that our emotional responses are not solely a result of what others do to us, but also shaped by our own internal beliefs, biases, and histories. For example, when we become angry with someone, we may focus on their behavior and how they've wronged us. But self-awareness invites us to ask a deeper question. Why does their behavior trigger this particular emotion in us? What past experience or belief system is this reaction tied to? This kind of self-inquiry allows us to uncover the layers of our emotions and see beyond the surface reactions. Once we recognize the underlying sources of our emotional responses, we gain the ability to separate our true selves from these automatic reactions. We begin to see that the emotions we experience, while valid, are not always rational or reflective of the present moment. For instance, someone who has been repeatedly hurt in past relationships may find themselves fearing betrayal, even in a loving, supportive partnership. This fear, while real, may be more a reflection of past pain than the present reality. By understanding this, we can begin to take a step back from our automatic responses and choose a more thoughtful, conscious way of engaging with others. Moreover, self-awareness fosters the recognition of our patterns of behavior. Every person has patterns that govern their responses, whether it's how they react to stress, deal with conflict, or handle vulnerability. These patterns are often ingrained, developed over time through repeated experiences. When we become self-aware, we can identify these patterns and decide if they serve our well-being. We might recognize that we tend to withdraw when we feel hurt, or that we lash out when we feel insecure. Recognizing these tendencies is not about judging ourselves, but about understanding how we operate so that we can consciously change behaviors that no longer serve us. Self-awareness also plays a pivotal role in understanding the narratives we tell ourselves. We all have internal stories about who we are, what we are capable of, and what the world expects from us. These stories can be empowering or limiting. For instance, if someone carries the belief that they are unworthy of love, they may subconsciously push people away when they get too close, afraid of being hurt. This self-limiting belief, deeply rooted in the past, can shape their relationships in ways they are not even aware of. Being self-aware means recognizing these beliefs and questioning their validity. It allows us to rewrite our internal narratives, creating stories that are based on truth, growth, and possibility, rather than fear or limitation. This level of awareness also enhances our ability to empathize with others. As we understand our own emotional landscape, we become more attuned to the emotional states of those around us. We begin to recognize that others, too, are influenced by their own histories, fears, and experiences. This creates a deeper sense of compassion, as we no longer see people's actions as direct attacks, but as manifestations of their own struggles. We become more patient, more understanding, and more capable of holding space for others without judgment. Ultimately, self-awareness empowers us to take control of our lives. When we know ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, our fears, and our desires, we are no longer at the mercy of external events or the behavior of others. We are able to respond to life from a place of clarity rather than reaction. We make decisions based on our true values and needs, not out of fear or insecurity. By cultivating self-awareness, we begin to create a life that is aligned with our authentic selves, free from the unconscious patterns and emotional triggers that once dictated our behavior. Taking ownership of our emotions is one of the most empowering acts we can perform in our journey toward emotional freedom. Many people, throughout their lives, are conditioned to believe that their emotions are primarily the result of external circumstances or the actions of others. This belief creates a sense of powerlessness because if we think that other people or events control how we feel, we place the responsibility for our emotional state outside of ourselves. However, the key to emotional autonomy is understanding that we have the power to decide how we respond to what happens to us. It is not the external event or person that causes us to feel a certain way. It is the meaning we assign to it and the internal choices we make about how we process that experience. When we begin to take responsibility for our emotions, we realize that our emotional reactions are rooted in our own beliefs, perceptions, and past experiences. For instance, if someone criticizes us and we feel angry or upset, we often believe that the criticism itself is the cause of our emotional state. However, if we reflect more deeply, we can see that our anger may stem from an underlying fear of rejection or a past experience where criticism felt like a personal attack. These emotions, though triggered by external events, are shaped by the internal stories we carry with us. We can choose how to interpret what others say or do, and this choice plays a critical role in determining how we feel. This realization, that we are the ones who give meaning to events, gives us the power to change how we experience the world. Rather than being swept away by anger, sadness, or frustration in response to what others do, we can choose to respond with understanding or even detachment. For example, if someone insults us, we have the option to take a moment and ask ourselves why we feel hurt. Is it because of a deep-seated insecurity? Is it because we fear losing the approval of others? Is it because we have an unhealed wound from past experiences? By identifying the root of our emotional reaction, we begin to separate the external event from our internal state and realize that we have the capacity to manage our feelings. This sense of ownership also invites us to step out of a victim mentality. When we blame others for our emotions, we relinquish control. We place our happiness, peace, and well-being in the hands of others. If someone's words or actions dictate our emotional state, we give away the power to feel secure and at peace. But when we take responsibility for our emotions, we reclaim that power. We acknowledge that while we cannot always control what others do, we can control how we choose to respond. This understanding removes the sense of helplessness and allows us to maintain our emotional equilibrium, even in difficult situations. It's important to recognize that taking ownership of our emotions doesn't mean suppressing them or pretending that we don't feel hurt or angered. On the contrary, It means acknowledging our emotions without allowing them to control us. We recognize that our emotions are valid and worthy of attention, but we also understand that they are not the final authority on our actions. By owning our emotions, we allow ourselves to feel deeply and authentically, while also retaining the power to make conscious choices about how we express and manage those feelings. This concept can be applied in all areas of life, from personal relationships to professional settings. In our relationships, when we take ownership of our emotions, we avoid projecting our internal struggles onto others. Instead of blaming someone else for making us feel a certain way, we are able to communicate more effectively, expressing how we feel without accusing or attacking. For instance, if a friend forgets to call us on our birthday and we feel hurt, we might be tempted to lash out at them or assume they don't care. However, if we take ownership of our feelings, we can acknowledge that our hurt may stem from our desire for validation or our fear of being forgotten, and then approach the conversation with understanding and openness. This not only helps us communicate more clearly, but also fosters healthier, more empathetic relationships. In the professional realm, taking ownership of our emotions can lead to greater emotional intelligence and leadership. When faced with criticism or failure at work, instead of blaming others or external circumstances, we can use these moments as opportunities for self-reflection and growth. By doing so, we increase our ability to respond calmly and constructively, rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. This level of emotional awareness and control allows us to navigate challenges with clarity and composure, fostering a sense of confidence and resilience. Furthermore, taking ownership of our emotions invites us to shift from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. Instead of allowing our emotions to take over and dictate our actions, we learn to pause and reflect before responding. This pause is crucial in helping us break free from automatic reactions and knee-jerk responses that often lead to regret or conflict. Through this process, we cultivate a deeper sense of emotional maturity as we learn to manage our feelings and respond from a place of wisdom rather than reactivity. Ultimately, when we take ownership of our emotions, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance and begin to see ourselves as active participants in our emotional lives. We realize that we have the ability to create emotional stability regardless of external circumstances. By owning our feelings, we empower ourselves to live with intention, responding to the world from a place of strength and self-awareness, rather than being at the mercy of our emotions or the actions of others. Strength is often misunderstood. It is not the absence of pain or difficulty, but the ability to navigate through it and emerge with a sense of growth and resilience. Life will always present challenges, obstacles, and adversity. This is an inescapable truth. What defines our experience of these hardships, however, is not the difficulty itself, but how we choose to respond to it. The notion of inner strength is less about being invulnerable or impervious to pain, and more about the capacity to face life's challenges with courage, patience, and an unwavering commitment to self-preservation. Resilience, the ability to bounce back from adversity, is not a trait that we are born with, but rather a skill that can be cultivated through experience and self-awareness. At its core, resilience is the ability to remain grounded and focused in the face of difficulty. It is about accepting that suffering is part of life, yet choosing to move forward in spite of it. Building this strength requires a deep understanding of one's own emotional landscape. The more we understand our emotions, the more we can control them. Rather than allowing them to dictate our responses, we gain the ability to assess the situation, process our feelings, and then choose a healthy course of action. Resilience also involves a shift in how we view suffering. In a society that often promotes the idea that pain is to be avoided at all costs, we fail to recognize that hardship is often the very thing that molds us into stronger individuals. Pain and struggle, though unpleasant, are rich with lessons. They teach us about our limits, our capabilities, and our potential for growth. Rather than seeing these moments as failures or setbacks, we can choose to view them as opportunities for learning and transformation. In this way, inner strength is cultivated not by avoiding pain, but by embracing it and learning from it. The path to resilience is also deeply connected to the ability to maintain hope, even when things seem bleak. Hope is not simply wishful thinking, but the belief that things can improve, that we can adapt, and that we have the capacity to overcome obstacles. When we are faced with challenging circumstances, it is easy to become overwhelmed by the weight of the situation. But inner strength allows us to hold on to hope in the face of adversity, to believe in our ability to grow through the experience rather than be defeated by it. This hope is the light that guides us through the darkness, reminding us that no matter how difficult the moment, we are capable of moving forward. A crucial aspect of developing resilience is learning how to navigate uncertainty. Life is inherently unpredictable, and we cannot control every circumstance that comes our way. However, our strength lies not in trying to control everything around us, but in learning how to remain calm and composed when things are uncertain or when we feel out of control. Resilient individuals are those who can face the unknown with curiosity and adaptability. They accept that they cannot always predict or dictate the outcomes, but they trust in their ability to respond to whatever comes their way. This adaptability, this ability to bend without breaking, is a hallmark of inner strength. Moreover, inner strength is not about suppressing vulnerability. True strength lies in the courage to be vulnerable, to acknowledge our limitations, and to ask for help when needed. In fact, embracing vulnerability can be one of the most powerful ways to build resilience. It allows us to connect with others, share our experiences, and receive support when necessary. The idea that vulnerability is a weakness is a misconception. Vulnerability is a testament to our strength, because it requires immense courage to face the rawness of our emotions and to remain open to the possibility of growth. This openness, this willingness to feel deeply, is a key part of building inner strength. Resilience also involves learning to let go of things we cannot control and focusing our energy on the areas where we do have agency. There are aspects of life that we simply cannot change, and fighting against them only drains our energy and diminishes our ability to grow. However, we do have the power to control our responses, our attitudes, and our actions. When we accept the things we cannot change, we free ourselves from the burden of resistance. We stop wasting energy on things beyond our control and direct that energy toward what we can influence. This shift in focus allows us to move through life with greater ease, knowing that we are focusing on what truly matters and letting go of the rest. Building resilience is also about cultivating a sense of purpose. When we have a clear sense of direction or a higher goal that drives us, it becomes easier to navigate through difficult times. Purpose gives us something to anchor to when everything else feels uncertain. It gives us the motivation to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead seems long and challenging. With purpose, every challenge becomes an opportunity to move closer to our goals, and every setback is simply a detour on the path to growth. In the end, inner strength is the product of consistent effort, self-reflection, and a willingness to face life's challenges with an open heart and mind. It is the capacity to rise above life's difficulties, not by avoiding them, but by learning how to move through them with grace, patience, and perseverance. It is the understanding that while we cannot avoid pain or hardship, we have the power to choose how we face them. And in that choice, we discover the true power of resilience. The subconscious mind holds a vast repository of experiences, beliefs, and emotions. Much of what shapes our behavior is hidden from our conscious awareness, residing deep within this part of the mind. The subconscious is a powerful force that governs many aspects of our lives without us even realizing it. Our thoughts, fears, desires, and unresolved emotions often stem from past experiences and are stored in the subconscious, influencing how we interact with the world today. This means that many of our responses to current situations are not always based on the present moment, but are instead shaped by deeply embedded memories, past traumas, and learned behaviors. Understanding the role of the subconscious in shaping our lives is crucial because it allows us to bring these hidden influences into conscious awareness, where they can be examined, understood, and transformed. One of the primary ways the subconscious influences us is through automatic behaviors and reactions. These behaviors are often ingrained from past experiences and repeated patterns, especially those formed in childhood. For example, if a person experienced neglect or emotional abuse as a child, they might develop an unconscious fear of rejection or abandonment. As an adult, they may find themselves avoiding close relationships or pushing people away, not because they consciously want to, but because the subconscious mind is driving them to protect themselves from perceived emotional harm. The person may not fully understand why they engage in such behaviors, but by becoming more aware of the subconscious patterns at play, they can start to make conscious choices rather than reacting out of fear or habit. The first step in addressing these automatic responses is to bring awareness to them and recognize that they are not necessarily aligned with the reality of the present moment. The subconscious also holds on to unresolved emotional wounds from past experiences, which can continue to affect us in ways we may not fully comprehend. These unresolved emotions can become like deep-seated scars that influence how we perceive ourselves and interact with others. For instance, if someone experienced a traumatic event in their early life, such as the loss of a loved one, they may carry the grief and pain associated with that event long after it has occurred. This pain may not be consciously acknowledged, but it can manifest in subtle ways, such as feelings of sadness, fear, or even anxiety, when certain triggers or reminders of that trauma arise. The subconscious mind stores these unresolved emotions, often pushing them down to avoid facing the discomfort they cause. However, these unprocessed emotions don't go away. They continue to affect our behavior and emotional state, sometimes in ways that seem irrational or disproportionate to the situation at hand. In order to heal from these deep-seated wounds, we must first become conscious of them. The process of uncovering and confronting the subconscious influences in our lives is not always easy. It requires us to take an honest look at the past, to examine the beliefs and experiences that have shaped us. By shining a light on these hidden aspects of ourselves, we begin to free ourselves from the grip of the subconscious. This can be a difficult and sometimes painful process, as it may involve confronting emotions or memories we've long avoided. However, it is only through this conscious examination that we can begin to heal and transform these wounds into sources of strength and growth. As we become more aware of the subconscious beliefs and emotional patterns that govern our lives, we can start to rewrite the narratives that have been controlling us. We can challenge the negative beliefs about ourselves that were formed long ago and replace them with more empowering, constructive ideas about who we are and what we are capable of. The subconscious is also responsible for the limiting beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. These beliefs often form early in life, based on experiences with parents, caregivers, or significant others, and they shape the way we see ourselves and our potential. If, for example, a child grows up in an environment where they are consistently told they are not good enough, they may internalize this message and carry it into adulthood. Even if the person consciously strives to achieve success, the subconscious belief that they are not worthy may hold them back, preventing them from reaching their full potential. These beliefs often operate in the background, influencing decisions and actions in ways that we may not even realize. Becoming aware of these limiting beliefs is an essential step in transforming them. Once we recognize the patterns of thought that no longer serve us, we can begin to challenge them and replace them with healthier, more supportive beliefs that align with our true potential. One of the most powerful ways to tap into the subconscious mind and transform its influence is through practices such as meditation, journaling, or guided self-reflection. These practices allow us to slow down, quiet the noise of everyday life, and tune into the deeper parts of ourselves. In this space of stillness, we can access the subconscious and begin to uncover the hidden thoughts, fears, and emotions that may be influencing us. Meditation, in particular, can be a tool for bringing subconscious patterns to the surface, allowing us to examine them with a sense of detachment and awareness. By regularly engaging in these practices, we begin to build a deeper connection with ourselves and cultivate the self-awareness needed to understand and transform our subconscious influences. The process of bringing subconscious material into conscious awareness is not about trying to control or eliminate the subconscious mind. It is about understanding its power and learning how to work with it. Rather than suppressing or denying the subconscious influences that shape us, we learn to accept and integrate them. By doing so, we reclaim the power to choose how we respond to the world, rather than being controlled by hidden fears, unresolved emotions, or limiting beliefs. This process of integration leads to a greater sense of wholeness and freedom as we begin to live more consciously and intentionally, aligned with our authentic selves, rather than being driven by the unconscious forces of the past. Emotional intelligence is an essential aspect of personal growth and emotional resilience. It involves the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. This capacity is not merely about controlling feelings, but about becoming aware of them, understanding their root causes, and using them in constructive ways. It also involves the ability to empathize with others, to understand their emotional states, and to interact with them in ways that foster mutual respect and understanding. Emotional intelligence is foundational to building strong relationships, maintaining emotional balance, and navigating life's challenges with grace and clarity. At its core, emotional intelligence requires self-awareness. This means being able to identify what we are feeling in any given moment and understanding why we are feeling that way. It's not just about recognizing that we are angry or sad, but about understanding what triggered those emotions. Is it an event that happened earlier in the day? Is it a pattern of behavior from others? Is it an internal struggle or an unresolved issue from the past? Self-awareness also involves recognizing the physiological signals that accompany emotions, such as a racing heart, tension in the body, or a knot in the stomach. These bodily cues often provide valuable information about our emotional state. The more aware we become of these internal signals, the better equipped we are to regulate our emotions and respond in a balanced way. Once we develop self-awareness, emotional intelligence extends to self-regulation, which is the ability to manage and control our emotions, particularly in challenging situations. This does not mean suppressing emotions or denying their existence, but rather learning how to channel them in ways that are productive and healthy. Self-regulation involves pausing before reacting, taking a moment to reflect on what we are feeling, and deciding how to respond thoughtfully. For example, when faced with a frustrating situation, instead of reacting impulsively with anger or frustration, someone with strong emotional intelligence might take a deep breath, assess the situation, and choose a more measured response. This practice of emotional regulation allows us to navigate difficult moments without letting emotions control our actions, leading to better outcomes in both personal and professional situations. Another key component of emotional intelligence is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Empathy goes beyond sympathy, which is simply feeling pity or sorrow for someone. It involves genuinely putting ourselves in another person's shoes and experiencing their emotions from their perspective. Empathy is critical for building strong relationships, because it allows us to connect with others on a deeper level. When we empathize with someone, we are better able to support them, offer understanding, and communicate in ways that are sensitive to their emotional state. This helps to build trust and create an environment where people feel heard and valued. Empathy also plays a role in conflict resolution. By understanding the emotions and perspectives of others, we can navigate disagreements with a greater sense of compassion, leading to more harmonious outcomes. In addition to self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy, emotional intelligence also involves social skills. These are the abilities required to build and maintain positive relationships with others, communicate effectively, and collaborate in ways that promote cooperation and mutual respect. Social skills are essential in both personal and professional contexts, as they enable us to navigate complex social dynamics, manage group interactions, and foster a sense of community. Strong social skills include active listening, clear communication, conflict resolution, and the ability to inspire and motivate others. In professional environments, emotional intelligence is crucial for leadership, teamwork, and creating a positive organizational culture. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are able to understand the emotional needs of their teams, foster a sense of connection, and create a supportive work environment where people feel valued and empowered. Emotional intelligence also plays a significant role in resilience. Life is full of setbacks, failures, and unexpected challenges, and how we respond to these challenges can make all the difference in our ability to recover and grow. People with high emotional intelligence are able to face adversity with a sense of emotional balance and optimism. They are less likely to become overwhelmed by stress or negative emotions, and are more likely to approach problems with a solution-focused mindset. This resilience is rooted in emotional regulation and self-awareness. When we are able to manage our emotions effectively, we are better able to handle stress, adapt to change, and maintain a positive outlook, even in the face of difficulty. Furthermore, emotional intelligence helps us to align our actions with our values and goals. When we are in tune with our emotions, we can better understand our motivations and desires. This clarity allows us to make decisions that are in line with our authentic selves. For example, if we are feeling frustrated or dissatisfied, emotional intelligence helps us to understand whether those feelings are a result of external circumstances or an internal conflict with our goals and values. By understanding the underlying emotions, we can make more informed choices about how to address the issue. Emotional intelligence enables us to set boundaries, make decisions with confidence, and take actions that support our well-being and personal growth. In relationships, emotional intelligence fosters communication and understanding. It enables us to express our feelings in a clear and respectful manner while also being receptive to the feelings of others. Effective communication is essential in any relationship, and emotional intelligence provides the tools to navigate difficult conversations with sensitivity and care. When we are emotionally intelligent, we are able to listen without judgment, respond with empathy, and resolve conflicts in a way that strengthens the relationship rather than causing further harm. This creates a foundation of trust, respect, and mutual support, which is essential for building healthy, lasting relationships. The development of emotional intelligence is an ongoing process, requiring self-reflection, practice, and a willingness to grow. It is not something that is fixed or inherent, but rather something that can be cultivated over time. Through mindfulness, self-awareness exercises, and learning to regulate our emotions, we can increase our emotional intelligence and improve our interactions with others. As we develop greater emotional intelligence, we not only enhance our own well-being and resilience, but also contribute to creating a more compassionate and understanding world. The idea of living in the present moment is one of the most powerful ways to regain control over your life and experiences. So often, we find ourselves lost in the past or preoccupied with the future, which pulls us away from the richness and potential of the current moment. The past is a collection of memories, some of which may be painful or filled with regret, while the future remains uncertain and full of anxiety. Yet, neither of these time periods exists in the now. Our minds tend to dwell on what has already occurred or what is yet to come. But the present moment is the only reality we truly have access to. By learning to live in the present, we are not only able to let go of what has been and what may be, but also to tap into a deeper sense of peace, contentment, and clarity. Living in the present requires us to shift our awareness away from distractions and noise, and instead focus on what is happening around us in this very moment. The act of being fully present begins with our attention, our ability to direct our focus to the here and now. It is easy to get caught up in the endless cycle of thoughts, worries, and distractions that swirl in our minds. We may find ourselves thinking about a conversation that took place earlier in the day, reliving moments of stress or embarrassment, or we might be consumed with what we need to do tomorrow or next week, feeling a sense of urgency and pressure. However, when we constantly live in our heads, we miss the beauty and opportunity of the present. The people in our lives, the sensations we experience, and the opportunities unfolding before us are all part of the current moment. And by being mindful of them, we can truly engage with life in a meaningful way. Mindfulness is a key practice in learning to live in the present. It involves bringing our attention to the present moment, observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. Mindfulness teaches us to be aware of our surroundings, our emotions, and our actions, allowing us to experience life as it is, rather than through the lens of past experiences or future expectations. By cultivating mindfulness, we begin to notice the small details of life that we often overlook: the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of a bird singing, the taste of a meal, or the smile of a loved one. These simple, fleeting moments carry deep significance when we give them our full attention, and by appreciating them, we open ourselves to a greater sense of joy and fulfillment. Another essential element of living in the present is letting go of judgment. Our minds are naturally inclined to evaluate everything we experience, categorizing it as good or bad, right or wrong. However, this habit of constant judgment can prevent us from fully engaging with the present moment. When we judge our experiences, we create mental barriers that limit our ability to simply be with what is. For example, if we are spending time with someone and our minds are preoccupied with judgments about them, whether they are talking too much or if they're saying something we disagree with, we are not truly present with them. We are missing the connection, the opportunity to listen, and the chance to engage fully. Letting go of judgment and allowing ourselves to experience the moment as it is can deepen our connections with others and enhance our experience of life itself. Living in the present also means embracing uncertainty and the unknown. The future is full of possibilities, many of which are out of our control. However, much of our anxiety about the future stems from trying to predict or control it. We may worry about what will happen, fear making mistakes, or feel uncertain about how to proceed in certain areas of our lives. These fears pull us away from the present moment and create stress. By learning to accept that the future will unfold as it will, we can release the grip of anxiety and return to the here and now. We can trust that we are capable of handling whatever challenges arise in the future, and that, in the present moment, we are always doing the best we can. This mindset allows us to feel less overwhelmed by the unknown and more grounded in the present. Additionally, living in the present requires us to release attachment to the past. We may carry regrets, guilt, or sadness about things that have happened, and these emotions can keep us stuck in the past. We might replay old arguments, relive painful experiences, or wish we could change decisions we made long ago. However, the past is beyond our reach. We cannot undo what has already been done, and dwelling on it prevents us from experiencing the beauty of the present moment. To live fully, we must learn to let go of these attachments and focus on what we can control, how we respond in the present moment. This doesn't mean ignoring or repressing past emotions, but rather acknowledging them and allowing them to pass instead of letting them define our current reality. In relationships, living in the present can greatly enhance the quality of our connections with others. When we are truly present with those around us, we listen deeply, respond with empathy, and share in the experience of the moment. This creates a sense of closeness and intimacy, as both people are fully engaged with each other. However, when we are distracted by thoughts of the past or future, we miss the opportunity to connect meaningfully. Being present allows us to appreciate the people in our lives for who they are right now, rather than focusing on past grievances or future expectations. It fosters understanding and compassion, and it enables us to approach relationships with openness and authenticity. Living in the present also nurtures a sense of gratitude. When we focus on the here and now, we begin to see all the things we have to be grateful for, even in the midst of difficult times. Gratitude allows us to shift our focus from what we lack or what is going wrong to what is going right in our lives. It enables us to experience life with a sense of abundance and appreciation. Whether it is the warmth of the sun, a good conversation, or the comfort of a familiar routine, these simple moments are what make up the fabric of our lives. By embracing the present moment, we can cultivate a deep sense of gratitude for the richness of our everyday experiences. Ultimately, living in the present is about letting go of the mental clutter that distracts us from what truly matters. It is about being fully immersed in the experience of life, rather than being caught up in thoughts of the past or anxieties about the future. When we live in the present, we give ourselves the opportunity to connect with others, appreciate the beauty of life, and create meaningful experiences. It is in the present moment that we have the power to shape our thoughts, actions, and reactions, and by doing so, we reclaim our agency over our lives. In conclusion, the journey toward understanding and mastering the concept that nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again is deeply rooted in the exploration of the self. It requires us to recognize that true strength comes from within, not from external circumstances or the actions of others. By embracing resilience, developing emotional intelligence, and learning to live fully in the present moment, we can liberate ourselves from the hidden influences of the past and the fears of the future. We are not victims of our emotions or experiences, but rather we have the power to shape our responses and navigate life with clarity and intention, the ability to transform pain into growth, to let go of limiting beliefs, and to approach life with a renewed sense of awareness and self-compassion allows us to live in a state of inner peace and strength. Ultimately, by cultivating these practices, we create a life where nothing and nobody holds the power to hurt us, for we are anchored in the knowledge that our true power lies in how we choose to respond, evolve, and embrace the present moment.